your genius. That's a gift. Talent, it's based on the preparation that we put onto something, onto a skill. A gift's unique to us based on our own experiences and based on the things that shaped us. It's something that we were given by life, by other people, by perceptions that we picked. A great tool that has helped me a lot is understanding how astrology works and how we can blend our synergy. Our synergy is the complementary blend of our energy, which is our elemental structure: fire, earth, air, and water. These 4 elemental structures build up the foundation for your psyche. And depending on your elements, depending on the planets, depending on the zodiacs that you have in each planet, that's going to determine the composition of your psyche. And your psyche is going to be playing out as this output of energy that portrays what you're trying to produce, your genie. And we all have our own unique, different genie based on our elemental structure, based on the experiences that shaped us. And we can see that through astrology. That's why astrology is a reflection of our own unique psyche. But it's not just looking at it and basing everything on prediction. It's about looking at things from intuition and understanding what are you specifically targeting about yourself that you want to understand. That's why you have to understand astrology from a perspective lens, not a perception lens. Because when we're stuck in perception, we're stuck on interpretations based on biases. We can look at our 9th house, which is the house of expansion, wisdom, what we gain, the experiences that form, what we see. Sagittarius is immutable fire, so it's a seer. It sees everyone else's forms of expression. That's why they're ruled by Jupiter, which Jupiter is a planet of expansion for out there things. So Sag have to go through all the houses from 1st to 8th house. They have to transform, and then they gain the wisdom. And that's how each different element forms a different triplicity that can dictate how each triplicity will play out. What's a genie? A genie, as we were talking about, is to produce something from within. How do you produce? That's not something that you produce materially. That's something that comes from within you, from your spirit, from your thoughts, from your feelings, from your emotions. And there's many different lenses that we can tap into our genius. If you have a lot of air, you might deal a lot of the genius of the communication. How do you mentally frame things? How do you mentally process things? That's your uniqueness. If you have a lot of fire, that could be your sense of expression. How does your character portray itself? And there's many different modalities that output that specific elemental structure. If you have a lot of water, how do you deal with your emotions? If you have a lot of earth, how do you practicalize? How do you organize? How do you structure things? How do you mentally frame things? And how can you see the things in the material and then externalize that and mentally help people stabilize themselves and help people ground themselves? So if you have a lot of fire, you might look at your opposite, which is air, and find that you might blend and find your polarity there and understand your shadow, which your shadow is what you're repressing. And that could be seen mainly in the relationships. And that's how we can tap into our own genie. What do we lack? That's our weakness that we can go and learn from other people. And what do we have, which is our strength, that we can start to prioritize and blend with our weaknesses so we can materialize whatever we want to materialize. But in order to do that, we have to understand and tame those weaknesses. Because if those weaknesses don't go controlled, then those wills, those genius aspects could be turned into something bad. Or we could be fueling someone else's genius because we're numbing our own unique genius. So in order to fixate on our raw intentions, we have to be aware of our will, of what we want. And if our will is not in check, then it means that our emotions are not in check, because our will is the currency of our emotions. What's our will? Our will is our Mars. Our Mars is a raw action. Mars rules Aries, which is the output of Mars, and it rules Scorpio, which is the input of Mars. Aries is exalted in the sun. It loves to be there because it loves to act using their Mars, and that's how we can tap into our genie by understanding our spirit, because our spirit is our fire. It's everything that we don't see, but it lights up and it dims. So if you have a Capricorn in the 5th house, it means that the episode of your self-expression of the house where you founded yourself might be there's a lot of earth there. So the filtering system, having Venus there, can help you see and be like, I have a planet there, means that my energy is there, that I'm placing Venus in the filtering system of Capricorn. So instead of being so practical, with the way I foundate my ego, I have to love, appreciate, and value myself a little more. The sun has the strongest gravitational pull. That's why we're following the solar system, and every other planet is following and orbiting the sun. Therefore, the sun emits light naturally. That's why Leos are fixed with their way of self-expressing themselves. So they're fixated. That's why sometimes they could be egocentric, but essentially that's what makes them inspiring, because they can fixate on their own sense of self and make them inspirational towards other people, because they can fixate on their darkness and then they can enlighten other people. That's what makes them pioneers and the kings of the jungle, because they can see different things of expression and they can formulate and foundate and have the courage to externalize their vulnerability and turn that into their ego. And that's how they become the phoenix of the actions in an everyday. That's why the sun is the pioneer, the masculine. It's our actions, it's our sense of willpower, but it's like an organized willpower. It's not Mars, that it's the raw action of our everyday. The actions is your conscious actions, your creation, your fixed sense of self, what you're foundating, what you're fixating based on your sense of expression, based on your spirit. And then the 9th house, which stems from the 8th house, is the house of expansion, for out there things, what we gain from the 8th house. So the 8th house is how we transform. It's the fixed water. So we're fixed with our emotions so we can understand them, and then we transform those emotions so we can reach a broad conclusion about how we see things. That's Sagittarius. So these houses are spaces in the sky, and you are traveling through the sky. When you were born, that's your birth chart. With your birth chart, there's a lot of different things that you can do. You can look at your horoscope, you can look at more precision aspects of your chart based on however you want to interpret it. And that's the beauty of astrology. And with technology, we can see different aspects, different astrological charts that can help us better understand astrology through our own unique perspective and lens based on how we resonate with it. And that's the beauty of it. There's many different lens perspectives. It's a matter of understanding it based on your own unique viewpoint. So all of that memory storage since you were born, everything that you picked up unconsciously based on your sensory world, all of that was stored in your collective unconscious, your memories. And you are not consciously aware of all of your memories. You can pick it up based on your working memory, which is what you need based on what you're working on currently. Your short-term memory, your long-term memory is what you have stored based on the episodes of your life, your episodic memories. Each chapter of your life can be seen through the life situations in astrology. In astrology, the 12 life situations represent 12 zodiacal locations. Each constellation shows a space, a storyline, from the 1st house all the way to the 12th house. And depending on those 12 astrological houses, that is going to determine where you rise. Where you rise is how you ascend. If I have Virgo in my 1st house, it means that my ascendant is in Virgo. So I'm rising in Virgo. If you have your ascendant in Libra, you're rising in Libra. Therefore, you have Scorpio in the 2nd house. So what are the houses? The houses are spaces in the sky. Each space in the sky holds a constellation, which are the stars. The stars are the storylines, the archetypal structures from a beginning to an end. So your planets are going to be put in the life situations based on how you rise, because these are the spaces. So the planets are being positioned based on how the sun rises, and your specific time shows the stamp of each episodic life situation, okay? So then the planets are going to be the influence that you're putting out. So that's the energy that you're putting into each life situation. And how we adjust our song on an everyday depends on how much we know ourselves and how much we know the chords we're playing and the specific instruments that are playing in those concerts. And we can alchemize our song. We can also alchemize whatever song we're playing at, depending on the concert we want to be in at the moment, the location we want to be at. The 1st house, the 5th house, and the 9th house, as we were talking about, this is the triplicity of the fire signs. So the fire signs are the spirit, the fire, the flame. So these are the spaces where you formulate your sense of expression, your sense of fire, your sense of spiritual self. Pisces deals with the collective unconscious, with the water. So sometimes they can get lost in that water. That's why they're so sensitive and they can float depending on how you feel that water. That's energy. That's our emotion, our energy in motion. So our emotion is cued through our Mars. Our Mars is our daily energy. How do we use our energy, our ATP, our adenosine phosphate. It's the energy that we get through food, through the relationship we have with other people. What do we have inside our inner power? We blend that through the energy that we get through nutrition, through external things. That's how we can fuel our Mars. And depending where we have Mars in our chart, that's going to dictate where Mars is comfortable, how we can start fueling our Mars, how we can start fueling our moon, because our moon is what is encoding our emotional world. Our emotional world is our unconscious. Let's say you have in the first house, which is the house of yourself, your I am, that's your personality, where you start rising, so your ascendant. The fifth house is your ego, how you fixate your form of expression. And then the ninth house is how you see everything else. So it's the higher mind. It's Sagittarius. It's correlated with the constellation of Sagittarius. If you think about the fire as your psyche, your psychological genius, which is your spirit, then just understanding this triplicity can give you a huge understanding of the specific archetypes that you have there. That's going to determine the specific storylines in your psyche, depending on the spiritual nature of your being, your first, your fifth, and your ninth house. Your first house is your house of self, everything that's around you, your self-expression. But your self-expression, your foundation, how you foundate yourself, how you fixate on that, now that you were cardinal with your fire and you started gaining your sense of expression, your values, your communication, your foundation, now you can foundate your expression, your character, your ego, your characterizing, your persona. You're putting up a character. That's what you're entertained by or what you like to be entertained in at. And depending on the planets that you have in the fifth house, that can show you how you can better output your genie, your ability to produce, how you can start blending and filtering that through. And lastly, the ninth house is correlated with Sagittarius. They're the seers. They see everything. So that's a higher mind. Now you understand your sense of self and your sense of self-expression. Now you come to a broad conclusion of everyone else's expression. Now you're mutable with your way of expressing and you have this higher mind of perspective.